Hey there, everybody. I guess we should give folks a minute to come on. Hello, 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 everyone. Let me go out here real quick and share share this to my personal page.
And how do you share to mine? Because can you share to mine too?
I can. Hold on one second. I will do that.
Okay.
Anyway, hey there, guys. How's everybody today? I wanted to have a chit chat with Judge Hunter. It's always fun to have a little conversation with Judge Hunter, as she can totally relate to all of this.
No, I'm the only one that will talk to you at 9 o'clock at night. Really?
I've got plenty of people who will talk to me at 9 o'clock at night, but none of them understand the level of corruption.
Well, that is true.
In Hamilton County. And so I just want somebody who can relate to.
Oh, God. And be just repulsed.
Exactly.
It's just, I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand and experienced it firsthand on a level most people will never, ever understand and will never see, quite honestly.
Exactly.
It took me getting to a very high level of power to see how it really operates, people who, really hold power and the depths of corruption that they will go to hold on to that power.
Exactly. See, so that's how come I thought it was important to have this conversation with you, because I knew you'd be able to relate. This is really weird. It's not giving me the option to tag you, which is really weird. You may have to share it from my page. So maybe you can go to my personal page, and you're muted. I think you know that. You might have to go to my personal page and share it from there, because it wouldn't allow me to tag you. It brought your name up, but it wouldn't let me tag you. Wait, let me try it this way. Anyway, guys, how's everybody doing today? Judge Hunter, you are muted, but I am Dr. Vanessa Enoch, and I am with Judge Tracy Hunter again. And I just want to make sure, can you guys hear me okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Judge Hunter, are you able to still hear me?
Oh, yes, I absolutely can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So I just tagged you in the post. So
okay.
Yeah, you should be able to see it on your page now.
All right. You know me in these technical matters.
Anyway, everyone, hopefully you're having a great Friday night. We just wanted to pop in and have a little chat about the corruption in the prosecutor's office and the necessity of getting rid of this current prosecutor and making sure that people are paying attention to what's going on around you as it relates to Hamilton County's prosecutor. As everyone knows, I am running in Butler County area, but most of the work that I've done around justice has been in Hamilton County and not in Butler County, where I live and where I'm running. The counties that the district I'm running in covers is Butler, Clark, Darke, Miami, Mercer, and Preble counties. But I wanted to have a conversation tonight with Judge Hunter surrounding something that came to my attention today about Hamilton County. And so, Judge Hunter, I don't know if you've seen it, but I actually have not seen it. I just heard about it, and I wanted people to pay attention to what's actually happening. So I hear I'm actually going to tag Fanon Rucker, Judge Rucker, who is running for prosecutor in Hamilton County right now, because I think it's important that people know the importance of getting rid of this current prosecutor because of all of the corruption that he has engaged in during his tenure as prosecutor in Hamilton County. And so my daughter brought to my attention today that a former bingo player, Pac-Man Jones, was doing an endorsement ad for Joe Dieters. I have not heard the ad on the radio. I've not seen it on television, but I found it intriguing. And especially when my daughter reminded me of his rap sheet, because I thought it was very interesting that Joe Dieters is now using this guy to promote his reelection bid, considering all that we know about Joe Dieters and all that we know about Pac-Man Jones and the trouble that he got into. Before we start our conversation, I want to actually share a couple of videos just to bring to people's remembrance what happened with Pac-Man Jones as it relates to the trouble that he found himself in here in Hamilton County. And so I want to start with, let me see, I'm going to start with the news story. Hopefully I'm pulling up the right thing here. I'll start with the news story. And I think this is the news story. If not, I'm going to go ahead and play whatever it is that comes up. Nope, that's not the news story. Hold on a second. Let me stop that one. That's not the one I'm looking for. I want to play, let me see which one this is. Video, okay, police cruiser. Okay, let me try this. Hold on, let me try sharing this again. I was gonna go ahead and share the other one, but I want to actually share the correct one. So I'm gonna close these so that I am sure to grab the right one. Let's see. All right, guys, I'm almost here. Just want to make sure I open the right one. All right, so I'm gonna share, I'll share the one that opens this time. This isn't the news story, but I'll close it after this one plays. And that way I'll make sure that I play the correct one. Wait a minute. I'm having all kind of drama here. I forgot to share the audio. Okay, this is the right one. Okay, so let me go ahead and play the video.
Quarterback Adam Jones is embarrassed tonight. At least that's what his attorney is saying.
Video released by Cincinnati police tonight. That's the reason why. It's from inside the police car just after Jones was arrested earlier this month. Local 12 Sydney Benter is here now with that video and some of Jones' choice words. Sydney.
Cammie, Jones was calm and collected when he spoke to a Local 12 crew after spending 2 nights in jail earlier this month. It's a far cry from the man heard in the video cussing out a police officer and threatening to spit on him. Jones faces several charges. He was arrested on January 3rd after police say he was beating on doors, yelling and cursing at the Millennium Hotel. According to police, he also tried to hurt a hotel security guard by pushing him and poking him in the eye. Cruiser cam video shows what happened after he was arrested.
Don't get locked up for nothing. Hey, let's go! Hurry your fat ass up, fat boy. Suck my How about that? You understand that? You lock up this to get some charges. I hope you die tomorrow.
Jones's attorneys say he's committed to counseling and anger management. They say he'd also like to apologize to the officers, Cincinnati Bengals, and the fans. Now, the Bengals also put out this statement within the last half hour, quote, "We are extremely disappointed with Adam's behavior. The behavior in the video is not what we expect from our players. The club is aware that Adam has put forth his own apology. However, we also offer an apology to the public and to our loyal fans." Cammie?
All right, Sydney Benter, thank you. Prosecutor Joe Dieters has said that he's waiting to see what sort of punishment Jones gets from the NFL before moving forward with potential criminal charges. Jones is due back in court next month. You can head to our Facebook page to watch the entire 20-minute video.
Okay, so that's one video, but I want to share a couple of other videos before we talk, because I want to make sure that you have some context about this situation and the fact that he is now endorsing Joe Dieters for his candidacy. So here's another video.
To talk about it and figure that out, but you didn't. Like I said, you're a legend. You committed an offense. You don't want to discuss it. I don't have your side, do I? So yes, you're under arrest. Right where you at, sir? I'll talk to you when I get around to it. Hey, here's what happened. He says you assaulted him. You said you want to talk about it. That means like that ain't what I said. No. So that's your version. No. Keep yelling and see what happens. All right, cool. You want to have a conversation? Have a conversation before yelling like a little kid. You got a version of this event you want to talk about? You don't have to. You have the right to remain silent if you want to do that. If you like to, however, you can give your version if you want. You want to do that? If the answer is no, it's no. That's fine. I don't even know what you're saying right now, bro. I'm asking you if you have any comment on the allegation. How long? What am I being charged with? Assault. Assault, too. Mm-hmm. Two. This gentleman right here. All right. Me and you'll talk about that. We got to talk about it. So, like I said, if you don't want to discuss it, you don't have to discuss it. I'm going to say, think about it if you don't want to. That's your right. But if you don't, all I've got is his version, and that means you go to jail. You do or you don't. I didn't hear you. I do want to discuss it. Hold tight for a minute while I read this to you. It's important. Ma'am, sidewalk, please. Man, please, I'm going sidewalk, please. Talk to him. Before I ask you any questions, you have the right to remain silent. Listen, this is important. This is important. You need to hear it. Hey, anything you say, Cammie, you get in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before asking questions and have him or her with you during questioning. You can't afford a lawyer. I'll be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish. If you type questions now about Tory presidents, you can type anytime you talk to a lawyer. Now you can talk. What do you have to say, sir?
Right there. I want to apologize on behalf of you've been drinking. Sincerely sorry. He should have went somewhere else with it. Okay. I'm going to put him in the car and get him out of here. Okay. All right.
That's not enough. He's going to jail.
Thank you.
He's absolutely going to jail. Not for that, for what he did to me, frankly. If you say he assaulted you, I'll make a report for that. He'll go to court for it. You'll bring a tape. Yeah. If it shows him assaulting you, then you're in good shape. If it doesn't, I don't know what to tell you. But
like I said, what did he do to you, sir?
His behavior's out of control. He's resisting and obstructing. I know that. He's drinking. I know who he is. His behavior is unreasonable. Anybody else would get locked up for this, and so would he, like anybody else. He got sent on from the casino. He got some rhythm then. He came out here and continued acting silly.
All right, so that one, I'm going to play one last video. And just to give you some context, one last video. It's just a couple minutes as well. In fact, it's not even a couple minutes, it's 32 seconds.
I know you said you were thankful for the organization to have you back. Is there anything you have to show to the fans, you have to prove to the fans, for them to welcome you?
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if the sound actually, did the sound play? Okay, let me go ahead then and play it.
Back this year, there was a lot of people upset with the way things went down in the offseason.
Didn't I just tell you don't ask me that? Yeah, but you out the conclusion. Turn around, go back that way. Bye. See you. Next question. That's his last interview for the year. See you later. Don't come over here no more for the rest of the year.
All right, let me stop that now. All right, Judge Hunter. So I hear there is an endorsement video where the gentleman we just watched on video is endorsing Joe Dieters for prosecutor of Hamilton County. Any particular things that you think we should be concerned about when we see this particular gentleman is now endorsing Joe Dieters?
Honestly, I didn't know who he was. I'm not a sports person, so I saw his commercials, his TV commercial, I believe, but I didn't have a context to make an assessment as to the validity or credibility of his endorsement because I didn't know who he was. But it's very interesting. Assault.
But let me tell you what I did learn, and I am familiar to an extent. I'm not. I don't get heavily involved in the criminal cases as it relates to athletes, but I was curious when I heard that he had done a commercial about his charges. And so my daughter ended up sending me, I went out to check the clerk of court's website to see what happened in that particular case. And I noticed that there is nothing on the clerk of court's website, nothing relative to the charges or anything of that nature. And so my daughter sent me a Wikipedia page that kind of gave a rundown of some of his legal issues. And that's where I found that on January the 3rd, 2017, that he was arrested in Cincinnati Central District for obstructing official business, disorderly conduct, assault, and felony charge of harassment with bodily substance. And on May 15th, just a few months later, he accepted a plea deal agreement, pleading guilty to one count of obstructing a police officer, and he received credit for time served. So he served 2 days and received credit for that time served. He received 1 game suspension from the NFL regarding the incident. And so then I took a look at some of his other some of the other charges against him. And actually, he has quite a long history of criminal charges against him. Things like cocaine. He had cocaine seized in 2007. He was in trouble after a shooting at an Atlanta nightclub, also in 2007. also in 2007 wasn't a great year for him. He had some other issues where he was accused, I guess, of hitting a stripper. And I guess he was also accused of saying he was of threatening somebody, saying he was going to kill them surrounding that incident. And it looks like he's got another charge in 2008 for hitting another woman at a strip club in Atlanta. And then also,
so domestic violence, I mean, or
he's
violence against women. I'm particularly, when you talk about violence against women, I mean, that just,
it's disturbing. And that's not all. I mean, he's got a long history of, in fact, he paid $15,000 extortion money to the alleged Minx club shooter. He was ordered to pay $11.6 million for the shooting, Las Vegas shooting. The list goes on and on and on. And it amazed me that this is the person who Joe Dieters is now having and getting an endorsement from. And I'm astounded that for this particular, that this is the type of a person. I mean, I don't know Pac-Man Jones. All I know is his record. And I know that he is somebody who is well known because he was a former athlete, professional athlete. And so I think it's interesting that this is the person who he has chosen to endorse him. And I think people should pay attention to that this is, Joe Dieters, of all of the African Americans in the community that he could potentially have endorsed him, this is who he chose. Moreover, I think it's important that people think about this, the kinds of things that, that that happen that leave people beholden to corrupt prosecutors. So there was a plea deal that happened here, which means that he got off for an incident that he, had caused or created. And now the prosecutor, to me, it sounds like is calling in favors. And so I think we want to pay attention to this particular situation. I also think it's important that we talk about Joe Dieters' character. And, I don't know, did you have an opportunity to watch the debate between Fanon Rucker and Joe Dieters?
oh, absolutely.
Did you notice that Mr. Dieters appeared to be inebriated during that debate?
If by that you meant slur his words.
Yeah, he appeared to be
and talk very slowly. Yes,
he appeared to be intoxicated. Now, I will say that I've had an occasion to see Mr. Dieters at a hotel where he appeared as well under the influence. And I think, and amongst other things where I know that he's actually broken the law. And, I think it's dangerous to have somebody like this in office in a position of responsibility and authority. But
and I also remember during one of the events that you all were, I don't know if you were at that particular event where they were actually going to his fundraisers and protesting him, that I remember them talking about a fundraiser downtown where they went and that he apparently was drunk and came across the street. And they said that eventually that his whatever guys that came over to get him, but they said that he was at his own fundraiser and they said they went to protest and that he came out drunk because
Wow.
he went up to them and began to talk to them. This is members of the coalition.
And this is what should be really a respected position, a position of authority, somebody who is responsible for enforcing the law. And
That's like the child support. Remember him cracking down on people for their child support, and there's articles out there talking about him, really cracking down on supposed deadbeat dads, but to remember his child support issues. So it's interesting, and just like same with him coming after me and accusing me of securing a public contract, obviously something that I did not do, and I mean just didn't do it. Didn't secure a job for anybody, but he did secure a job for not only his family members but other his friends' family members. So he has a habit of going after people, but the things that he's going after people for, he's actually doing and just repeatedly breaking the law. It's like he's above the law, yet he has the it's hypocrisy at its worst.
yeah, I think there was another incident. I know there was another incident where he got into some trouble in Columbus. Again, for pay to play, I think it was, while he was treasurer of Ohio, the state treasurer. He got caught up in a pay to play scenario, and he was able to worm his way out of that as well. And so, yeah, that concerns me. I mean, anytime someone holds a position of responsibility, and then they themselves engage in that type of corruption. And I think people need to pay attention to that. Amongst other things, I know in your particular case, Judge, he pretended that he had nothing to do with your case, but he pulled the strings from behind the scenes, and
he kept sending people to me. He was trying to get me. I felt he was trying to extort me, to be honest. That he was sending people, as you know, because you were actually sitting in a room one day when one of the people called on a speakerphone.
mm-hmm.
You and me and Senator Thomas and a group of other people were there when this individual called and said he had just spoken to Joe Deters, and Joe Deters said, well, I don't have anything to do with it, but if she does this, then I'll make sure she doesn't go to jail. Well,
yep. He said you would give up your
he wanted me to give up my judgeship.
It was not just the judgeship, it was your speedy trial rights.
That day it was the judgeship, though. He came at me with both.
Mm-hmm.
But that particular day in the room, he called and said, he said if I would step down from my judgeship. In fact, remember, you all had a conversation even before I got there because I was running late to the meeting. And so when I got there, someone had already said, probably Senator Thomas, that she would never do that. She's never going to agree to that. You all, do you know her? And so sure enough, I came in the room, and then this person repeated the offer that came from the man that had nothing. Now, if he didn't have anything to do with the charges that were falsely filed against me, if he didn't have anything to do with what was going on, how did he have the power to decide what would happen if I stepped down from my judgeship or what? And literally I remember it being, we'll make the charges go away, And so if you have legitimate charges against me, they don't, why would they just go away if I give you what you want, which is what you've always wanted, and that's my judgeship. And of course I said, no deal. But prior to that, other people came to me and asked me and said, well, Joe said, they would always start it out with, Joe said that he doesn't have anything to do with it, but if you just waive your speedy trial rights, he'll talk to them about you. He'll make sure you don't go to jail. Well, if you have that kind of power and influence, then you're involved.
Well, of course he was involved. I mean, one of the things
started with him. He initiated. I mean, I've always known. I've never deviated from the fact that he initiated it. It started with his office. It started straight out of Joe's office when, as a judge, I would not just bow down to the prosecutors in my courtroom, and they wanted to come in, and if I ruled against them or didn't rule the way that they wanted to, then they would just have a tissy fit and ultimately, wouldn't follow orders. And so ultimately, when it all started, it started with the prosecutors in his office. And so I'm not sure how he separates himself from something that I can show you documentation to prove that it came straight out of his office.
Well, the other thing too, I think it's important for people to know is that personal divorce attorneys and the attorneys who fought that case for him in Columbus when he got into trouble as treasurer were the two attorneys that he sent after you to prosecute you on those false charges.
Because he controlled them, just like he controlled the process, from beginning to end. And so,
oh yeah, absolutely. And I didn't mention already that in addition to them being his personal attorneys, they also donated to his, to get him elected as prosecutor. So there was some money exchanged as well. And so we're talking about people who
and he vacations with Scott Croswell.
Say that again?
I said, and he vacations with Scott Croswell.
Or staycations. I think that means
staycations.
Yeah, that they're having vacations right here at home.
But I know for a fact that they also vacation out of town.
Oh, okay.
And I know where.
Got it. Yeah,
so,
the level
too.
Huh?
I said I do my homework too.
Oh.
The problem is they think we're stupid.
Right. I also recall, and this is something else that just bothers me tremendously, is the fact that all of this stuff was the stuff that he came after you for was in order to continue this school to prison pipeline where they were sending children, especially African-American children, through a prison pipeline, a school to prison pipeline, for the sake of profit and gain. And, that certainly does not escape me. And I know it does not escape you. But every time I think about the numbers of, what they bring in just by virtue of, incarcerating children, at the time that you were on the bench, I know the numbers were about $330 million a year for incarcerating children in Hamilton County alone, to the tune of $202,000 a year to incarcerate them, when it would only cost about $11,000 a year to educate them. And I think it's important that people realize and understand why it's so important, why he believes it's so important for him to maintain that position on the bench. That position in the prosecutor's office, not to mention the fact that many of the people who work in the prosecutor's office and who are on the bench are all related. The judges are all related. The prosecutors are all related to the judges. Many of the people who work in that office are related to Joe Dieters. And what that means in terms of whether or not people are treated fairly in that system. And so I think people need to be aware of all of those things. And especially when you get somebody like an NFL player who has gotten into trouble, or anybody who's gotten into trouble, and then who finds themselves in a position where they're being asked to endorse this dirty prosecutor. I think that citizens, voters, should be concerned about that. And you want to make sure that you're making the right decision when you go to the polls to vote, and that people are not enamored by the fact that there is an NFL player endorsing him, pay attention, I would say.
Yeah,
And
but I want to know why his information. You said you went to the clerk of court website and you can't find any documentation.
And that's true. That's true, because even with a plea bargain, the document should still be there, right?
Definitely be there. I mean, if anything, I'm a judge, and if anything, should not have been there. For a person, that's in the type of position I was in, it would be that. But you're telling me you can't find a Bengals player information when that's a clerk of court.
I found him on the clerk of court site, but I did not find that particular case from 2017. And he's got some cases on here, but I don't see the criminal case from 2017, and I could very well have overlooked it, but
and maybe you did. It's kind of late. We don't want to take too much time to go looking for it. But
well, I'm actually still on the page. I'm not even off of the page, and it's not very much on there. I mean, there's a lot of cases with his name on it, but I'm saying it's not likely that I overlooked it. I overlooked his particular criminal case. It's always the potential for that. Can you see that on your screen in front of you, Judge?
Yeah, I can't read it. It's too small, but I can see it.
Oh, bummer. So, I mean, as I go down this list, and here's cases with him on here. Adam Jones is his name. And so these are traffic tickets up here. There's some civil cases, more traffic cases. This is a case that happened in 2012, so that's not it. These happened in 2015. This is in 2016. These are traffic again. These are civil cases.
The date should be on it. It should have the year on.
Yeah, the dates are on here, and these are all civil and traffic cases.
Okay, yeah, I just can't see it.
Yeah, there's more civil cases, traffic cases. And these actually say Pac-Man Jones, and these are all civil cases. This is a traffic case. Here's a criminal case, but this is from 2012. This is a domestic case right here. Also, this is from, this isn't him. That's another Adam Jones. So yeah, this is, there's a couple, these are not the same Adam Jones, because his is Adam B. Jones. This is Adam L. Jones, Adam L. Jones. This is a common pleas civil case, and then a few more traffic cases. So it's absolutely not it's not here anymore. It's off. And so I did not overlook it. It's not there anymore. So I do find that interesting that that case is no longer on the docket at all. So, maybe that was part of the deal, that it would just go away, and and he would get a favor from the prosecutor. But anyway, yeah, I definitely think that people need to pay attention to that fact, because who knows what the deal was in order to get that endorsement. And we know that that's the kind of a person that he is, because he's done that kind of thing in the past. And these are the things that I think people should get a fair get fair treatment in court. And I do know him to be someone who, rather than divvying out fair treatment, he divvies out favors to certain people who meet certain classifications, if you're wealthy, and that kind of thing. But ordinary citizens don't get that same kind of treatment in court. I think it's time for change in Hamilton County. If we went through everything that we know about Joe Dieters. It should be no reason at all why anybody should be voting for this man for prosecutor. So I just hope people are not.
Well, it concerns me the number of people, even African American people that we know who have come to us and mentioned the fact that they've been places or that they've personally witnessed him being publicly inebriated, which I thought there was a law against that. And especially when we're talking about our public official. And, he really had the audacity to come after me with all his fake charges when, this person on a day-to-day basis is just publicly doing things that other people know. But I think that's what bothers me too. It's the fact that not only is he walking around in that state, people know it, but everybody's too afraid because of either maybe what he has on them, I don't know, or afraid of what he'll do to them. I remember lawyers coming to me in my chambers and saying that they were afraid, literally afraid. And I remember one Caucasian lawyer, literally with tears in her eyes in my chamber saying that, there are people that would come forward. She said even she would want to come forward, but was just too afraid that they would do to me what they were doing to them, or to do to them what they were doing to me. And just to know that everyone's walking around just afraid of this person because of either what he has over them or what he will do to them. I mean, we already know how far he will go to abuse his power because he totally, violated laws and everything when it came to me. He just totally I really don't even have a word for the level of corruption it's so that he engaged in. But and I understand from that standpoint, just because of what I've endured and had to fight. And when you're trying to fight back a machine, I mean, think about it. I was literally trying to fight back a machine by myself that was spending millions of dollars to come after me. And he was spending millions, it was like there was no amount of money that was too much for him to spend on his personal vendetta against me. And to think about the fact that here I am fighting one charge after all of his millions and millions of dollars that he spent to me or spent trying to get me out again, just show you not only the level he stooped, it should show you that I was innocent, that he spent all those millions of dollars and still had to fix a jury just to get the one charge. And even in that charge, they all came forward, the fourth of the jury came forward and said that I was innocent. But we know that he spent millions to do it. And so he'll go to any length to take care of a personal vendetta, but won't spend the type of time and money just to do his job as a full-time prosecutor, because he's been playing prosecutor for all of these years. So when it's convenient, he plays prosecutor, but outside of that, he's using a public position as a playground.
The two things that strike me too that I think it's important that people also are aware of is the fact that his office was hiding evidence. I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that one of the cases that you ruled on was, I believe it was the AC case of some juveniles. It was two juveniles. AC case was one of them, where the prosecutor's office was hiding evidence. And I believe that particular case that you oversaw during your trial, we found out that the Supreme Court ruled in your favor. And basically what came out of that case is that prosecutors' offices could no longer hide evidence. They must turn over evidence to the judge in the event that evidence could exonerate a child. And you would think that would be that would have been the law anyway, that they would have to turn over the evidence.
Well, it was the law. The exculpatory evidence is the law, and depending on which criminal rule, whether you're in adult court or whether you're in juvenile court, or even federal court, but you must turn over exculpatory evidence or Brady material. But we were having it was an issue involving police reports, and they were trying to, the defense lawyers were trying to get certain information that would help them to, defend their client and give them access to, again, exculpatory information. And when I ruled that they needed to turn it over, they just vehemently opposed to doing it, so much so that they just refused to do it. And so, his prosecutors just decided they just weren't going to follow the law in my courtroom. And then when I held one of them in contempt, they just went ballistic, because like, how dare you as a judge, mind you, how dare you, judge, hold one of my prosecutors in contempt for, and he's telling me, I have to go and ask somebody if I can turn it over. What do you mean ask somebody? I'm a judge and I'm telling you to turn this, turn it over. And so just the games, that they played. And so finally, after I ordered it, it went to the First District Court of Appeals, and the First District Court of Appeals, oh my God, at that time anyway. So hopefully we're going to get a new slate of judges, period, that will actually follow the laws. But they, overruled my decision, and oh, she's incompetent. Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But whatever. So I went to the Ohio Supreme Court, and the Ohio Supreme Court, as you said, they upheld my ruling. And then once the Ohio Supreme Court upheld that ruling, then that made it law across the state of Ohio. But they're just so bent on doing what they want to do and not what the law requires that they do. And when you're talking about a juvenile case in particular, first of all, and even, Fanon said this the other day in one of the interviews that we did with him, one of the forums, and in fact, this is so crazy because Joe Dieter's commercial, in fact, I literally almost got sick when I heard it. On his actual TV commercial, at the end of it, it says the job of a prosecutor is to seek justice. Well, if a prosecutor's job is to seek justice, and it is, then why were they heck bent on not turning over exculpatory evidence that would possibly exonerate somebody? If you're seeking justice and you know that a person is not guilty and you have evidence in your possession, the law requires you as a prosecutor to turn that over. Because if you're truly seeking justice, you're not going to want to send an innocent person to jail. But as we know in my case and in many, many, many other cases, that's exactly what they want to do, because they're trying to get convictions under their belt so they can brag about how many cases that and how many convictions that they've won, not whether or not those were just convictions or whether they were fair. And that means even if they had to withhold exculpatory evidence or Brady material to get a false conviction or a wrongful conviction, that's the kind of behavior that he's actually been engaged in over the years. And then in the cases where it was convenient, where he should be prosecuting, he didn't want to prosecute. The Ray Tenzing trial.
Oh yeah, overcharging Ray Tenzing intentionally.
And then bringing out some, rookie prosecutor on this high-profile case. So you see the type of shenanigans that they engage in to manipulate the system and manipulate the outcome, depending on who it is or what they're trying to achieve.
Judge, another thing that I don't want to miss mentioning is the fact that he actually instructed the ProWare executive who came to testify at your trial not to put in an affidavit that they knew who had backdated documents even before falsely accusing you of doing it. The ProWare software guy, that vice president said that not only did they know, his name was Don Fleischel, he's the vice president at ProWare Software. He testified that he made the prosecutor's office aware of the fact that you did not backdate documents even before bringing those false charges against you.
Which
So
proves that he brought a charge again, and that's actually illegal. That's criminal in and of itself, to bring a charge against somebody when you already know they're innocent. And that's basically what he did. He knew that I was innocent. And you're right. That's what that software expert did testify. He testified that he knew that I was innocent of that before they even brought the charge, and was instructed by the prosecutor's office under Joe Dieters to withhold that information from his sworn affidavit.
the other thing too is that those two who he made special prosecutors, he did that and gave them $1 million no bid contract to prosecute you. That was another thing I think, we want to remind people of. That was $1 million no, in fact, over $1 million. God knows the amount really that they were paid is untold. I know over $1.5 million just with the trials alone that they were paid, but they're still being paid even now because your case is still pending in the appeals court. I know a lot of people aren't aware because you were incarcerated and served time for crimes that you did not commit. But moreover, that people aren't aware that the case is still going on. But that was over $1 million no bid contract for his friends, basically.
He's a dirty dog. And I don't say, as a pastor, I don't say those terms lightly. He's dirty, and he's going to have hell to pay. And when I say hell to pay, I mean from God. And most likely, if he doesn't get his life together, now I'm speaking as a pastor, if he doesn't get his life together, and if he doesn't repent, and if he doesn't try to make right, what he's done, hell is going to be the ultimate response. And again, I don't say that lightly, but you can't do that kind of dirt, and then mistreat me as a judge, and not only just a judge, and then mistreat me as a judge and as a pastor. And as surely as I'm a woman of God, God's not going to allow him to get away with that. He may think, they've already thrown me in jail, and they're feeling pretty good about what they did. What they're bragging about, how we threw this black judge in jail, but they're going to pay for it.
And Judge Hunter, I haven't seen this commercial either, but somebody also mentioned to me that Nadel, who was the initial judge in your case, and he's boasting about having incarcerated you in a commercial or on the radio or somewhere. He's boasting.
Yeah, I know on his website, if you go to his website, that's one of his career highlights, is that he prosecuted me. And he should be ashamed of himself. And in fact, he's as old as he is, he really should be trying to make it right. With God.
And I during your case, it was interesting because another judge in another city was actually convicted of helping the other side and even passing a note to help the other side. And we watched this Judge Nadel get rid of Black jurors. He helped the prosecution in your particular case, and even gave this dialogue on why it was that you had to pay for all of these things that had nothing to do with what you were being tried for, like commandeering an elevator and all kinds of nonsense.
He said I had to go. He said I should go to jail because I was tardy on my cases.
Yeah, and commandeering an elevator.
Yeah, and commandeering an elevator. But I mean, the stuff he was talking about, I mean, it had absolutely nothing to do with all the bogus charges they brought against me. But I'm just really shocked as you know, and I'm wondering, and I'm just going to bring this up because, you know, there's a Masonic, and I've just been thinking about this more and more recently. You know, there's a very strong Masonic stronghold here in the city of Cincinnati. That's the Masons. And for instance, every police academy, that at least as far as I've seen, they graduate in that building. They held their ceremony. But I will never be able to understand how a federal judge was able to look at that false charge that didn't even meet the statutory requirement of, you know, when I'm as a judge sitting on the bench, whenever I had a case in front of me, first thing I do is I pull the statute out and I review the statute very carefully. And in order to get a conviction, you must satisfy every element of that statute. So in my case, they would have had to, you know, that would have been 2921.42. Unlawful interest in a public contract. You would have to go through every element of that statute and be able to prove that I somehow violated that statute. You can't prove one element of that statute where I am concerned, let alone ultimately securing a public contract. And so it just, I can't for the life of me figure out, unless it is that maybe Joe Deters had something over this federal judge's head, or maybe it's I don't know if it's the Republican connection. I don't know if it
could be because
connection. I don't know the Sonic connection, but you cannot convince me that federal judge did his job, looked at that statute, and was able to actually conclude that I received a fair trial and that I broke that statute. I don't meet not one element of the statute, let alone mens rea. Mens rea is the intent.
Right.
What did you use to approve? First of all, you didn't even have a contract. So then how did you prove that I had a mens rea for something that didn't even exist? You know what? I'm just amazed.
You know, and I do believe that Judge Black, who was over your case, that he was also the head of the Republican Party at one time here in the Hamilton County area. And so you got to remember, these are friends and cronies and, you know, people who really run together. And so he's being entrusted to oversee a case. In fact, it was also troubling the fact that your peer judges heard the case to begin with, because, you know, or in any other court, that would have been, you know, a no-no. In fact, in this court, in this case, it was a no-no.
The Supreme Court, there were like 4 Supreme Court decisions that specifically basically made that illegal, and stated that one judge in a county cannot preside over any matters involving another judge in the same county. There's like 4 Ohio Supreme Court decisions, and they went against all of the law, the precedent law of the Supreme Court, to try to control the case after they brought those false charges against me. And again, I've never been so disgusted with my profession as a whole, because, you know, the judiciary is supposed to be a respected profession. It's supposed to be an unbiased profession. That's why they don't have DNR next to their names. It's because it's supposed to indicate that the judges are objective and fair and are not beholden to political parties. But as you know very well from your your involvement for all of these years and watching firsthand and being in the back rooms, you know, it's anything but apolitical.
You know, in fact, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that also troubled me is the idea that Judge Dinkelacker, who was the judge who took over after Judge Nadel, along with several other judges, were actually donors to Deters' election campaign. You know, and I cannot for the life of me understand how it's possible that these same judges are expected to fairly rule on a case, and they're giving, donations to the prosecutor. How is it that, they could even be considered fair when, you've got these kinds of scenarios where judges are donating to prosecutors and
vice
so on and so forth.
And vice versa.
Oh, yeah, and vice versa, right.
And again, but there's just so much. And I just pray, we're having record turnouts right now at the polls. And I just pray that people will go and just do the right thing and not be, I don't know, we don't know how many people he has gotten his claws into financially. We do know that there's a lot of record of he spreads his money around. He spreads a lot of money around, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are easily bought, and I've seen a lot of people be easily bought, and it's
another thing too that as you were talking about that, was the fact that he actually, amongst all of the things that he did to influence your case, as someone who claims that he had nothing to do with your case, just a couple of days before your trial, he actually accused you of murder. I know you recall that.
How can I not? I woke up, I think it was like on a Friday. Trial, I think, was supposed to start maybe like that Monday.
Yes.
It was like Friday. It's my, phone's dinging off the hook at like 6 a.m. And I'm like, what's going on? And I start answering the phone, and it's plastered all over the TV that I'm responsible for murder. And it's what was so sad though, Dr. Enoch, and it's not just the fact that you have this prosecutor who's a liar, just totally corrupt, and I have nothing good to say. But the media and their conspiracy with him, the fact that they would print, and I think that has more to do, honestly, I think, with race, because I've seen how quickly they'll apologize to white people when they're wrong, or how they won't even take the risk of being wrong. But when it came to me, they never once ever interviewed me or called me. They never fact checked. They never verified. They didn't even verify their case, because if you really had went and researched the case that he accused me supposedly of and said I was responsible for murder, you will find it was, first of all, it was no connection whatsoever. The kids in my courtroom years prior, and and then claiming, I didn't lock somebody up. The charge didn't even warrant it. And, but the media didn't care about the truth. They just, whatever he said, they would just go print these lies. And they've been printing them to this day. Gave me a whole life in persona, somebody that I didn't even know. And nobody who knows me knew, because it wasn't me. And yet to wake up every day with all of Joe Dieter's lies plastered all over everywhere, and these reporters just working for him. Now, we do know apparently he's in a relationship with one of them at Channel 9, apparently. So now so that's even giving more insight as to why Channel 9 was the station that was always coming after me, the TV station, always coming after me. Okay, so now you're with, and again, I'm a pastor, so there's certain things I'm just not going to say, but the implications are there. And so they never fact checked. They just didn't care about the truth. They just printed it. Whatever that liar said, they just printed it. And shame on them, because at the end of the day, we've already saw what happened to one of them who was involved early on, and even took credit, for doing these horrific things to me. He was so horrible. I was about ready to get a restraining order against one of the Cincinnati Enquirer reporters. He was always up in my face, in my personal space, stalking me. And, there's nothing good is going to come to these people in the end, and unfortunately, I'm still having to fight for justice. And they've done all of these horrific, destructive things to me without cause and with no justification whatsoever. So but the one thing I am sure of, not only as a judge, but as a pastor, the one thing that I am sure of is that God is not going to allow them to get away with it, because God does not like ugly. And what they have done has been ugly, dirty, corrupt, filthy, and absolutely no justification for any of it. And so I don't know how or when, whatever, maybe the fact that he's an alcoholic and is out there and is unraveling publicly, maybe that'll be part of it. I don't know. The fact that he had the audacity to accuse me of, being mentally ill, putting all that out there, and they're out here printing this stuff, no justification for it whatsoever. And then the audacity then to write a letter the day that they're getting ready to throw me in jail, and then write this crazy letter, and then follow up after they're throwing me in jail to say, oh, we shouldn't put her in jail. Like, are you bipolar or what? But I guess they thought they had me a rock over a barrel, because at that point, well, she, where we got her where we want her now. So now we'll go and say, hey, we'll get you out of jail if you do this. And you know what I said to my lawyers? I said, I'll sit here for 6 months before I give that man who did this to me, give him the satisfaction of thinking I would never ask for, you don't do this, and then turn around and then try to be my rescuer at the same time. I don't need rescuing from somebody wicked, evil, and corrupt.
Well, it's not even just, he clearly was not being your rescuer. That was for the cameras and to convince the public that he had nothing to do with your case, while in the background orchestrated the whole thing. And I mean, so much so that, at every level of the court system and the county administration, there was collusion. His brother, in fact, was the one who signed off on the non-compete contract for the multi-million-dollar non-compete contract for his friends. His brother Dennis signed off on that contract.
Like, are we all just crazy here? Are we all like just dumb, numb with dumbness? That literally, while he's accusing me and just supposedly convicting me of securing a public interest for a family member, his brother then signs off on $1 million contract for Joe to get more money to come after me. And I remember Todd Fortune, who was still alive at the time, he even told him that that's a violation. That's a conflict. You shouldn't do it. But that's just how bold and how hypocritical these people are. You literally are trying to convict me for securing a public contract for my brother, while you literally are securing a public contract for your brother.
Right.
So you can't make stuff up.
Right. Exactly. And so, Judge, I hope that people will share this live, so that other people are made aware of what has been happening in that prosecutor's office, because this is a year that people have the opportunity to actually change things. It is within the power of the community to vote to get this person out of office. We did a honk and wave on yesterday for Carrie Bloom, who's running against John Williams, who was the judge that they appointed to the bench, who lost his race to you. And so she's running against him. So we want to make sure that Carrie gets elected. Judge Nadel, who we mentioned, who is the corrupt judge who handled your case, now sits in the treasurer's office.
No, in
the recorder's office.
Recorder.
So there is a formidable candidate who's running against him, Scott Crawley. So we want to encourage people to vote for Scott Crawley, Carrie Bloom. If you're filling out your ballot right now, make sure you write down the names: Carrie Bloom, Scott Crawley, Fanon Rucker, and there is one other candidate who we we didn't do a honk and wave for him, but
Christian Jenkins, he didn't get back with us.
yeah, Christian Jenkins. We want to make sure that people are voting for these individuals, and that that you get these folks elected, because these are people who will truly look out for the community and who won't who aren't involved in the corruption that has been happening in Hamilton County for decades and decades. So it's an opportunity this year to change that court, to ensure fairness, to ensure justice, and, you know, to make sure that children are treated fairly in this system as well as adults, because some of these people are associated with, you know, the adult court, or, you know, Christian Jenkins, in fact, is running for Hamilton County Common Pleas Court against Dinkelacker, who killed an African-American woman and was never held accountable for it. This kind of stuff you would think it only happens in the movies, but this is stuff that we've witnessed right here in Hamilton County and watched as these men were never held accountable for the crimes that they committed. And so I want to remind people, just if you can see them in front of you, let me see if I can make them a little larger. I know I can't make them too large, but vote for 4 priority Democratic candidates. So that's Carrie Bloom, Christian Jenkins, Fanon Rucker for prosecutor. And I don't believe that there is a D or an R next to any of the judges' names. Am I correct in that? Even Carrie Bloom?
Yeah, you're correct.
Yes, Carrie Bloom and and Christian Jenkins. There won't be a D or an R after their names, so make sure you remember their names. We want to make sure that they get elected, as well as Fanon Rucker for prosecutor and Scott Crawley for recorder. This is a small thing that voters can do to get the corruption out of Hamilton County courts and to ensure that children and adults are treated fairly in that system. Who knows all of the mischief that's happening in that recorder's office now that there is now a corrupt judge who left the bench, who was committing all kinds of corruption, and who is now in that recorder's office. Trust and believe, if there is some corruption and dirt that can be done in the recorder's office, that NATO has found it. And Huey, this is not your live, so chill. But he wants to be part of the conversation. He's a little showboat. But anyway, Judge, we are closing in on the 10:30 mark. You were already complaining that I was keeping you up at 9 p.m. And now here we are closing in on 10:30.
I was sleepy when I got on here, so no telling what I might have said. So I'll just have to.
Oh, ignore
this now. I'm tired.
Exactly what she was saying.
I was asleep.
Telling you all about the corruption in Hamilton County. And you as a voter have the opportunity to change that. Remember, I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Butler County. And if you are in Butler County, and I say Butler County because I'm assuming that many of the people who are watching this broadcast are in Hamilton County, but I'm sure some people will see it from Butler County as well, just by virtue of the fact that it's on my personal page, or the other counties that I'm running in. Butler, Clark, Darke, Miami, Mercer, and Preble counties. And I'm running because I believe that the people of the 8th Congressional District deserve someone who will truly represent their interest, who will fight for their interests. So I've been fighting on the front lines in Hamilton County for families and alongside Judge Hunter, to ensure that children as well as adults going through the criminal justice system and also taxpayers are protected in Hamilton County from the corrupt folks that sat on the commission, I'm excited that there is an entirely new commission right now. There is a new clerk of courts. When all of this stuff started, nobody was paying attention to any of these things. And we brought all of these things to light, through the Coalition for Just Hamilton County. We have flipped many of the seats, I believe, because of the exposure of Judge Hunter's case, even on the council, because many people were not paying attention to these things. They weren't paying attention to judgeships or the commissioner's office or to the clerk of court's office. But your case, Judge Hunter, exposed all of the corruption in these offices. And now that it's exposed, people have the opportunity to put people with character in these seats. And I will take that same fighting spirit to Congress, and I'll fight for the 8th Congressional District to ensure that, systems are fair and that everybody has an equal opportunity to succeed throughout this district. And I continue my fight in the greater Cincinnati area. I was out there last night because I think it's important that we keep the fight up until things change, until those dirty, corrupt people are out of office. And, and I carry that to the end. And I hope that this year will be the end to that, that we will see a complete change in those offices, and that we no longer will have to contend with the kind of corruption that has happened over the past several decades in Hamilton County. So if you are in the district and you have not, in the 8th Congressional District, you have not already cast your vote, I'm asking for your vote, your support. You can also, if you're not in the district, donate to my campaign. You can go to enochforcongress.com. That's ENOCH for Congress.com, and donate right there on my page. Guys, we need volunteers like crazy. So if you're able to volunteer, please do go to enochforcongress.com, sign up to volunteer. We need people who will do lit drops this week, next week. We need people at the polls to hand out rack cards. We need people on the telephone to make phone calls. And you can sign up right there at enochforcongress.com. My volunteer coordinator, Linda, will put you to work. We will put you to work every day. So, all right, guys, Judge Hunter, it was a pleasure talking to you. And if I have another wild thought and I want to keep somebody up late, I'll feel free to call you again, because you have been a trooper tonight, despite the fact that you were sleepy. But I thought this was an important enough conversation, and I want to make sure that the right people get in office, and that people aren't taking the word for somebody that could potentially be compromised. So thanks again for hanging out with me again tonight. And voters, I hope you're paying attention. Go to the polls in Hamilton County, vote for the right candidates: Christian Jenkins, Carrie Bloom, Fanon Rucker, and Scott Crawley.
And I'll say this too, they're having Souls to the Polls on Sunday. And so as a pastor, I just want to encourage the Christian community to participate in your churches and go to the polls. I don't know if they do that in Butler County, but I know they're doing it definitely here in Hamilton County this Sunday. And
I believe they do. I believe they do. It's not as big out here, but I do think they do.
It probably wouldn't be, but just remind people that this weekend they starting voting, allowing voting at the Board of Election on the weekend. I think this is the first weekend for people to be able to vote at the board as well. So again, and we do have record turnouts in Hamilton County and that's a good sign, because the majority of those are Democrat that are
Take a sandwich and some water. You might be standing there a minute because of the voter suppression is real. They want to make sure you don't get to vote. So stand in line and make sure your vote is counted. stand in line, go take your lawn chair so you have something to sit down on while you sit in that line instead of standing. Butler County, I think it still goes pretty fast, even though it's long lines out here as well. So, just go ready, dress warmly in layers so you can take stuff off if it warms up.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's supposed to be like in the 50s tomorrow. So remember we had good weather the last few days, 70s, 80s, but I heard tomorrow maybe in the 50s. So
it's gonna feel like freezing tomorrow.
Yeah. So just
Yeah. Yep.
It's been real. Enjoy
All right.
it.
Have a great night, Judge Hunter. And anybody watching, have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.